previously I did say that this is the last DLC that EU4 is gonna have, and while some of you said, oh yes Ludi, maybe you're right, some of you maybe you're not right, but today I'm actually gonna show you proof of why I think this is gonna be the last DLC, and why I think as of now that EU5 is gonna be released this year, not next year like I originally thought. Also, of course, after we discuss the potential release dates and whether or not this is the last DLC, I'm gonna be going over the last 3 dev diaries that I haven't yet covered, including the new one that includes a ton of content for Hiss and Kaifa and other nations, and also why that again plays into the fact that this is the last DLC that EU4 is gonna be getting. Now, as you guys know, Tinto Talks, which is basically the EU5 dev diaries, have come up with a lot of insane information, and if you go to the developer replies, which is namely whatever Johan replied to, in the most recent dev diary, Tinto Talks 4, he answers the question that Esnos asks, will the UI be changed compared to current basic one for testing purposes during development? And then Johan says, UI has been changed any times in the last 4 years and will change more before release. The current one has basically no artwork yet except the images that you see. So that essentially means that Johan, and let me show you that this is in fact Johan, mentions the game has been in development for 4 years. In another post, in an earlier reply, he also mentions that development started in 2020. So that means EU5 has actually been coding for 4 years. Now, if we back this up and we check the first Tinto Talks, look at what he says there. A long time ago, we started talking about a game as soon as we started working on it, and that is in 2020. Back in the long, almost forgotten past, we used to make games in 8 to 9 months, as was the case with the Imperator. I remember us announcing Wiki 2 with just 2 mock-up screenshots and half a page of ideas. They changed over time with first the rule not announcing a game until it passed alpha milestone in case it would be cancelled, as was the case with the Rune Master. Then when projects started going from an 18 months development cycle with games like EU4 to many years like in our more recent games like Wiki 3, because we all know Imperator Rome was developed in 6 months, so that's a little bit of an exception there. The time from announcement to release has become much closer to the release of the game. Now with the Victoria 3, I think the release was like 6 months or something of the sorts from the moment it was announced, if I'm not mistaken. He goes on to talk about this a little bit more in the whole release bit, but the point is that EU5 has had 4 years of development and they still don't want to make an official announcement just yet. But that means the main coding is done. Now they're working on the UI. Now they're working on the political map, as we would call it, right? Setting everything into stone, finishing off the events, finishing all that stuff. And I would initially have said that it's gonna take 1 year to finish all that, but this announcement is in March, and ParadoxCon is likely gonna be September, October, maybe even later, who's to say, right? And you couple that up with the fact that EU4's new DLC includes everything around the world, including content that the community has asked for a long time, like as we are talking about today, the new Hiss and Kaifa content, the new Trebizond, Oman, Hormuz, nations that did not get the content they were supposed to get in the previous DLC because the previous DLC was a little bit rushed. Then that begs the question, why are they rushing this also then so fast after the previous DLC, which was also rushed, right? This seems like a lot of unnecessary rushing of DLC after DLC, as if it's meant to be that something big is going to be around the corner, say at the end of this year. Obviously, this is all assumptions based off of what I'm getting from the forums and everything, but I do think that there is a very high likelihood that EU5 is going to come out at the end of the year. Maybe not ParadoxCon, maybe December or something of the sorts. We've had some of those situations in the past, right? We might get an official announcement for EU5 in the next couple of months or so. Also, I want to point out that Johan has confirmed the 1st of April 1337 to be the start date of EU5, and in one of the other posts here, he mentions there's going to be no other date. There's going to be only one date, not two like I thought initially, the 1st of April 1337. There's a lot of reasons why. I got an EU5 video coming out tomorrow, and I'm going to explain all of this a little bit more in depth. Plus, I have a few other things that I'm going to mention that I think a lot of you are going to find really interesting. So before we do all that, let's go ahead and talk about the current dev diary, as well as we'll be going through the previous 2 dev diaries for EU4, just mentioning the highlights in essence. Now, for Hiss and Kaifa, which is the last bastion of the Ayyubids, everybody knows this, they're going to have their own government reform, the Ayyubid dynasty, where provinces in the Levantine culture group will have the unaccepted culture modifier negate negated. So that means you don't get the debuffs from it. You also have the Iktai taxation ability, governing costs from states -10% and one possible advisor. We have an updated starting screen as well for Hisankaifa, which is pretty cool. It does explain everything that happened to the Ayyubids from the rise of Salahuddin until 1444. And we have the standard of Saladin replacing the old flag of Hisankaifa. They will gain access to the Ayyubid cosmetic name, which has been highly requested. It is unlocked through their mission tree, so after you do some of these missions, you can be renamed yourself to Ayyubids. The mission tree itself is actually significantly bigger than I was expecting it to be. It's got a lot of missions from a nation that is essentially just a one province minor. 3 of the nations covered today are one province minors, right? Now you have the option of either remaining as the Ayyubids, or you can form Egypt, Arabia, Timurids, Persia, or Mughals, which is a lot of different options that the Hisankaifans are going to get. You started off by prepared to war. It's going to give you a general and permanent claims on every neighboring province. That is pretty good, actually. You get 10 mutual trust with every allied nation from political security, and you can also get some extra bonuses depending on who you're allied to. -10 aggressive expansion with all neighbors after you've expanded your domain, and more permanent claims on all the other areas around you. You'll also be able to unlock, after you do the Fate of the Mamelukes, the ability to recruit Mamelik special units, and depending on what you choose from the legacy of Salahuddin, you will be able to prevent certain traits from spawning into your heirs. So for example, you will not get the cruel or the craven trait for your heirs if you choose Saladin's wisdom will inspire our rulers as your option. The title of Khalifa is also going to give you the title of Caliphs for the rulers, and until the end of the game, prestige, decay, legitimacy, and effective absolutism plus 10%, which is pretty good. Cairo is going to be the new capital as well from one of the events, and you get some development in there, and this is what the Ayyubids will look on the map once you fully restore them to their former glory. Now Hormuz and Oman will be getting their own mission trees, and these are in fact different mission trees. It's not the same ones. Look at them. They're not massive, but they're not small either. It's considerably better than having the generic mission tree or the tribal mission tree or whatever, right? And Oman and Hormuz is, as they say in the dev diary here, that it's similar to the Karakoyunlu Akoyunlu dynamic from King of Kings. Essentially, Hormuz and Oman are at opposite ends of a spectrum, and they're vying for control of the same area in essence. Basically, choosing either Hormuz or Oman leads you down a different path of essentially the same people, right? Hormuz and Oman inevitably find themselves in a struggle for dominance as they seek to expand into Arabia and unite the peninsula. Despite their mercantile focus on expanding into India and Southeast Asia, both nations recognize the importance of controlling their immediate surrounding provinces. Consequently, the reward for uniting Arabia, while significant, tends to be more generalized to accommodate the broader ambitions of the trade-oriented nations. That's right, these are massive thalassocracies, as I guess you could say, right? And yes, they are probably some of the best trade nations in the game, especially with the new mission trees that they're getting right now. For example, religious diplomatic state privilege is going to double its bonuses and give plus 10% improved relations and permanent claims on the entirety of the Egypt region. The province modifier Kafi Arabica is going to appear in Taiz and Zabib, and they're going to get a manufacture plus. Your leader is going to be industrious. Consolidate Central Arabia is going to give you for 20 years reduction for cav cost and 5 Muslim cavalry or whatever cavalry you might have for free and 50% time to construct. And Form Arabia decision is no longer going to require admin technology. That means you'll be able to form Arabia without needing admin tech 20, was it? So you could possibly speed run the formation of Arabia as these nations, which is a pretty massive deal in my opinion. I'm definitely going to be covering Oman personally, and maybe even Hormuz, let's see when the DLC drops. To better illustrate that these nations were massive trade conglomerates, they both get the Arabian mercantilism government mechanics, where you will be able to gain Arabian mercantilism as a passing monthly thing, with the max bonus being trade efficiency plus 10, merchant power plus 15, which is huge, ruler diplomatic ability, navy tradition, and you gain this each month based on these modifiers here. So having a high navy tradition, being in a golden era, trade companies with 51% provincial trade power, ruler's diplomatic skill, and being at peace will increase your Arabian mercantilism, whilst high corruption, low trade income faction, high war exhaustion, or being at war is gonna lower it. So it kind of encourages you to just not be at war really, but I mean, that's, you know, well, you cannot not be at war in this game. Now, you will have some special government interactions. So for 20 Arabian mercantilism, you'll be able to get the strengthened overseas outposts, which is going to give defensiveness, trade power, and cost of upgrading trade center reduction. Also, you can get support overseas merchants for another 10 Arabian mercantilism. It's going to give you 50 trade power in every trade node that you have a merchant, which is actually freaking massive. You also get a trade advisor level 2, which is 50% cheaper, and merchant trade power flat. That basically consolidates Hormuz and Oman as the strongest nations from a trade perspective in the game, doesn't it? Empower religious propaganda also costs 35 mercantilism, and it's gonna give for the next 15 years propagate religion without needing to have Sunni as the dominant faith. Okay, this is actually really freaking strong. Holy shit. Connection to India gives you permanent claims on all spice provinces in the Malay region, as well as permanent claims on Canton and Macau, so you can establish yourselves in the Chinese areas. The Far East Company is going to give you +1 merchants and trade steering +5%, as well as some Arabian mercantilism. Spice must flow is going to give flat amounts of ducats based on your month of income from the trade node in Hormuz, and Hormuz gets thalassocracy until the end of the game, +1 merchants, light ship cost reduction, diplotech reduction, and you get the thalassocracy government reform aside from the thalassocracy unique modifier, so it's freaking huge. Now, they do mention that divergent paths emerge from tackling their respective challenges for Oman and Hormuz. So Hormuz will bolster provincial trade power in their fortified provinces, whereas Oman will incorporate a more pronounced religious aspect into certain missions. However, both nations will share access to a distinctive reward, the ability to establish Arabian traders privilege. Okay, that's cool. When they propagate religion, the province also gains local goods produced +25%. Holy shit, okay. Now, there's also some more expansion stuff, core creation cost reduction, and permanent claims into the Timurid lands of Persia. End of the Timurid reign until the death of your whatever current leader is going to give you 5 permanent power projection, and if the Timurids are your subject, it's going to lower their liberty desire by 50%. I'm not sure if that's permanent, the 50% liberty desire, but that's really good if it is permanent, because obviously making Timurids a vassal is not bad since they have cores on everything around, right? We also have a new formable, Oman Zanzibar, which is a unique Omani formable, and you also get until the end of the game Omani sailors or marines, which is 15% marine force limit and national sailors modifier. You also get the strengthened Omani marine burgher estate privilege, which will empower your marine special units. You get colonists join of snaps. Okay, so you can colonize the little islands off the coast of Zimbabwe, right? Or better yet, Zanzibar. Till the end of the game, you also get for every ivory producing province in East Africa 25% goods produced modifier. That's not bad. And the Sultans of Zanzibar is the one that's going to change the name to Oman Zanzibar. So it's not a formable, it's just a name changer. Now let's get into the juicy stuff. Trebizond, one of everybody's favorite nation to be playing and dying as, let's face it. So they start with the Empire of Trebizond, government tier 1 government reform. It gives unjustified demands -25%, tolerance of heathens, opinions of countries from others of heathen religions, and you gain access to the heathen royal marriage diplomatic action. That means you could potentially ally Dul Qadir, you could potentially ally whoever you want to be allying. Now take note, guys, from a historical perspective, the Byzantine Empire and their successors, they married the Turks. A lot of them, they married the Turks. So most of the early Ottoman princesses were of Byzantine origin. Not most of them, but a significant amount of them were of Byzantine origin, or even Trebizondian origin, and so on, right? They've also established the Cappadocian culture. The culture can be established in Anatolia through the new mission tree of Trebizond, as well as via the mission tree of the King of Kings DLC for Byzantium. So they're changing some of the stuff in King of Kings DLC. Interesting. Furthermore, in order to increase the reputation of the Greek population in Anatolia, we have turned the population of Samsung into a Greek Orthodox province with a Trapezoundian core. Oh, that is awesome. So Trebizond starts with one more core on Samsung, and that is a Greek Orthodox province. That is really, really cool. Since the province was only conquered by the Ottomans some 20 years before the start date. Speaking of, we should get more Greek Orthodox provinces in Anatolia, because in 1444, roughly around 30% of Anatolia was still Greek Orthodox. That's not fucking represented in the game at all, and that's a mistake in my opinion. And I have books to back that shit up, by the way. Lastly, Greek dynamic provinces now also apply to Pontic and Cappadocian culture. That's nice to see the Cappadocians brought back. And there you have it. The province of Samsung is a Pontic Orthodox, better yet, not Greek, and it has the core of Trebizond. As for the mission tree itself, the main point of the mission tree is, as they say, the restoration of Byzantium. Progressing along this path empowers the Komneni restoration restoration modifier, which evolves with each completed mission. The culmination of this effort is the Conquest of Constantinople, which permanently enhances the modifier, offering benefits to core creation cost, army tradition, and prestige decay. Additionally, forming Byzantium for the new Trapezoid mission tree grants significant amount of monarch power, so that's good. So you could essentially do the mission tree for Trebizond. This is the mission tree, by the way. It's pretty big actually. And then after you form Byzantium, you can do the Byzantine mission tree, which is also freaking insane. So you would actually be very wise to start doing your Byzantine campaign as Trebizond, really. Now, some of the highlights here is until the end of the game, you get minus 5% core creation costs for the Komnenian restoration and permanent claims. Provinces in Anatolia will slowly start converting to Greek, Pontic, or Cappadocian culture via events. Komneni restoration modifier gets an additional minus 5% core creation cost, so minus 10 eventually, and you get permanent claims on the entirety of Anatolia. The event Vengeance for Massacre happens. That's awesome, and this is what it offers. You also get some missions that revolve around getting control over the Caucasus, and the Georgian culture changes to Greco-Georgian, moving it to the Byzantine culture group, and it becomes an accepted culture with Georgian Union mission, so that's cool. You can also change some provinces to Armenian culture and add Armenian as an accepted culture by liberating Cilicia. Cilicia is basically in the southern southeast part of the Anatolian Peninsula, I guess. Another mission also allows you to release Jerusalem even after the Age of Reformation and regardless of religion. That is important to note. Trebizond essentially becomes the best world conquest nation because you can add all the other modifiers once you get to form Byzantium, and you can, holy shit, you can really stack up the war score cost versus other religions and the core creation cost reduction modifiers till maximum, till 90% as consequence. I'm assuming you also start with the Italian coastal influence privilege, which you have to get rid of course, and you can get rid of that by doing the mission Ties with the Latins. You also get a claim on every province in the coast of the Black Sea by doing the Goths and the Romans. Okay, you get an offer to make you offer to Theodora the ability to become a vassal. That's nice as well. Now let's talk about everybody's favorite little schnappeldupe, Theodora. Now the Principality of Theodora essentially is remnants of Byzantine Roman rule in the Crimean Peninsula, and I said Roman because they were the Eastern Roman Empire, but yes, they were Byzantine Greeks. As for Theodora, a majority of the population was Goths mixed in with Greeks, with the majority of the leadership of Theodora actually being of Greek Byzantine descent, so keep that in mind. And also there was a sizable amount of Crimean Tatars in that area. But yeah, in 1444 Theodora was very small, significantly smaller than what we see it on the actual EU4 map. This is the mission tree they get. It's a fairly small mission tree, but it has interesting missions like the Gothic invasion here. Hint hint, there's an achievement that you might make use of with this. The mission tree centers on the expansion into its neighbors' lands. Players will have the opportunity to subjugate the Tatars in the north, engage in conflict with the Byzantines, the Ottomans in the south, providing them with the option to proclaim themselves the true emperors of the east. Additionally, they can utilize their connection to Russia to pursue diplomatic relations with the Muscovites, culminating in the Gothic invasion. Starting missions will primarily focus on conflicts with Genoa. However, the Gavras dynasty of Theodoro experienced a gradual decline in influence, leading to the eventual annexation by the Ottomans. This will be represented through the introduction of a new privilege, the Italian coastal influence, which imposes penalties on sailors and trade power. Is that the same one as the... Yes, it is. Okay. So the Italian coastal influence is the same one that both Theodoro and Trebizond start with, and you got to get rid of it. You also have 100 support for Renaissance from dealing with the Italians, and trade efficiency and institution spread from the Italian coast influence privilege. They also have the option to integrate with the Tatars. One with the Tatar mission is going to have a few options here. 10% Cossack force limit fraction by default. You get until the end of the game as well Tatar Vanguard, which is going to give shock damage and army drill modifier for Cossack units only. That's only going to affect the Cossacks. Or the Cossack self-governance privilege will give 50 governing capacity and 100% reduction in local religious unity contribution. So you're not going to have religious unity issues with the Tatar provinces, essentially. Well, better yet, Cossack provinces, really. You get permanent claims on the Caucasus, Ural, and Central Asian region. Holy shit, that's actually a lot of permanent claims. As descendants of one of the core Byzantine families that once served under the Komnenos, players will have the opportunity to press their claims and set sail to conquer Constantinople. In doing so, they will earn various rewards aimed at demonstrating the peoples of the Balkans and the Aegean the superiority of the Gothic way. Okay, so you also get permanent claims on Ruthenia, Anatolia, Constantinople. Country name changes to Gothia. Okay, that's cool. More permanent claims on the entirety of the Balkans. Culture in Constantinople becomes Gothic, and until the end of the game, you get culture conversion cost and culture conversion speed. You also get the Gothic monarchy reform, which enables the recruitment of foreign generals, diplomatic action, and mercenary maintenance and manpower increase. So the recruit foreign general allows you to interact with other nations. It's going to give you 10 army tradition alongside a general, depending on the opinion of us, as well as the army tradition of the targeted nation. So if you target a nation with really high army tradition, you're going to get a Chad Lord general. This is what it looks like, and apparently they need to have at least 10 army tradition, as well as you need to pay a little bit of money for that. That's awesome. Better paying money for a general than getting a general with mana points, right? You could also get a restoration of union on the highest development Russian monarchy, which is obviously going to be Muscovy, and it's going to be 20% cheaper to annex your Russian personal union nations with the Palace of the Tsars. Mission done. Russian mercenary guard is also going to give the ability to recruit Streltsy infantry. Okay. You also unlock the Gothic invasion CB. Conquering major German cities will grant us the following bonuses: Vienna, Prague, Cologne, Aachen, and Lübeck give different bonuses by having those cities. Okay. Admin efficiency plus 5% from Aachen. That is freaking huge. All current and future provinces in Germany we own will gain the modifier Return of the Gothic Way, culture conversion cost, and culture conversion speed reduction. And next week they'll be talking about the hordes. Now let's do a little bit of highlights for the previous two dev diaries, because I haven't talked about them. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, just the main overarching themes of them. Starting with the fact that I was right again. I was right, okay, just like I was right about 1337 start date the second time. You know, it's okay. First time I said 1356, but I was close enough. Don't worry about it. Then the second time, after the fourth dev diary, I did say 3037, and they confirmed it after I said it. So there's that, right? I was right about this being split in two dev diaries, and then we have the next one and the horde one, and then the various little patch notes, and then the actual DLC coming out. So I'm assuming the DLC is going to come out very, very soon, within maximum 2 months from when this video is coming out. Now today, we'll be talking about Venice, Italy, and the Netherlands. They all three received massive revamps, a ton of new events, a ton of new changes to the nations, flavor, missions, of course. This is the new mission tree for the Venetians. It's pretty sizable, actually. Now, the Venetians, as you guys probably know, were one of the biggest players in 1444, the biggest trade republic in the Mediterranean, and the fall of Byzantium pretty much started the downfall of the Venice Republic itself, since the trade which the Venetians relied upon came from the Byzantine city itself, Constantinople. Once the Ottomans took hold of that, they basically cut the Venetians to the point where they fell into obscurity, they lost all of their power, and Portugal and Castile became the new Chad Lords by getting Asian trade through their South African coastlines, okay, going around the entirety of Africa to get the same spice trades that they were getting through Byzantium before, and in the process discovering the New World. So yeah, I guess if it wasn't for the Byzantines falling, the New World might have not been discovered as soon as it was, right? Now, the Venetians do start with the Council of 10 government mechanic. It does start at 90 council authority, and it progressively will lower itself as you know, I mean, it could also increase, I guess, right? This is a mechanic that, as they say, throughout your playthrough will have a prevalent spot in your decision making and be affected by various generic and unique events that may occur, as well as mission rewards and interactions. Should the council's authority surpass the 90% mark, it will forbid the Doge from commencing any offensive wars and have further severe repercussions as shown above. So if the council has 90.1 as is shown here, then you cannot declare any wars. You got to lower the council's authority if you want to actually be in charge of your country. There's a lot of really great events that can happen, and a lot of missions that give a lot of innovativeness, tax money, and even government reform, unique government reforms you get from Provisional Ducale for your tier 3. The culmination of this particular branch of the mission tree is going to be the Golden Republic, which has a few options here, and you can also have a name change to La Serenissima, which is the most serene republic once you've got down a little bit in your mission tree. Now, that being said, the map color is freaking awesome. I love that they changed the map color as well. This results in both a color and a name change, and I guess a tag change, because we have new national ideas here. So once you do form the Golden Republic or La Serenissima, you will get trade steering plus 33%, galley power plus 25, discipline 5%, tech cost minus 10%, trade power globally plus 20%, fire damage 15%, force limit 20%, naval force limit 50%, max absolutism and revolutionary zeal, and global ship trade power 35, and goods plus 10%. That's not bad, actually. That's really not bad. It's basically a really great mix of economic, trade, and a little bit of military slid into there as well, right? The second part of the mission tree deals with your expansion, and you see here that we have some branching missions: the Cernida system, modern warfare tactics. Depending on what idea set you went for, you will get different bonuses. So if you went offensive ideas, you get 5% siege ability per level. If you went defensive, the constructing forts will have the following effects to our provinces. If you go quality, you get +1 army tradition every time you recruit a general. If you go quantity, you also get no cost for reinforcing whenever you employ one of these 3 types of advisors. So no cost for reinforcing means you're gonna save up a fuck ton of money. I mean, a fuck ton. You guys need to realize reinforcing armies after they lost a battle, that means bringing the manpower back into that army, cost a lot of money, dude. Second mission, the modern warfare tactics, gives fire damage received -5%. Force march has no power cost, and it enables force march. So depending on how fast you can do this mission, this is a massive game changer. On the opposite spectrum, there's also the mercenary path if you don't choose the other 2 missions. Now this is going to give you the mercenary militarization mechanic, which offers mercenary leader army tradition modifier +50%. You're going to be able to replenish the ranks of random mercenary companies stationed in your capital via national decision every 5 years, and until the end of the game you get movement speed, assault portability, and it only affects mercenary regiment. Okay, that's pretty average as fuck. You also have the option to focus on your navy. Not going to go through that. Nobody's retarded enough to actually focus on their navy, because navy is not really that important in EU4, especially not when fighting the AI. Doing global trade is going to extend the current global age by 600 months. That's another 50 years of golden age. You also get goods produced modifier +2 in Ternat, Tidor, so that's your spice islands right there. Till the end of the game, ship cost reduction, max admiral maneuver, etc. And you can also do into the Red Sea. It's going to facilitate the access of construction of the Suez Canal, allowing oh my god, so you could possibly construct the Suez Canal as the Venetians. Italy is also part of this dev diary, a little bit unexpected, but a pleasant surprise, suffice to say. This is the new mission tree that you have for the Italians once you form them. The overarching theme of the Italian mission tree is going to be the Roman restoration, and there's going to be stuff to help you out with restoring the Roman Empire. In fact, it's similar to how the new Byzantine system works to restore the Roman Empire, right, in the King of Kings DLC for Byzantium. The rightful heir is going to give claims on a lot of provinces around. You also claim Roman ancestry, which is going to give 2 options. Either number 1, blatant Roman claimants. Until you form the Roman Empire, you get Diplo Rep and Relations -2 each, but you unlock the Roman Ambition CB on nations owning provinces that are our claims. So it's going to cost 90% aggressive expansion and 90% war score to take those provinces, meaning it's 10% less aggressive expansion and 10% cost less to take those provinces. It's not 90% cheaper, okay? Because I heard people say it's 90% cheaper. It's not. It's only 10% cheaper. It's very misleading here. Option 2, until the end of the game, you get absolutism and max absolutism, as well as a little bit of temporary power projection. The real Roman Empire mission is going to give the Eternal Rome event, which offers dev cost reduction modifier, core creation cost -5%, and permanent power projection +10. Holy Roman delusions. Oh my god. Okay, so if you want, you can also try and become the HRE Emperor, and then you can get more power projection permanent, or even until the end of the game, Imperial Authority bonuses. Whatever the case, forming Italy is a lot more incentivized now. It's a lot better, and you get a lot of modifiers even this year. Mercenaries, condottieri, land fire damage +10%, all of these juicy bonuses until the end of the game. Also, whenever you get 300 ducats as your income, 30 trade centers, 3 nodes with at least 80% trade share, you get access to the branching missions about trade, and you unlock the support Latin merchants estate privilege for the burghers and the preview branch. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. Venetian supremacy, Eastern markets, journey to the east. Okay, the journey to the east requires you to build the Suez Canal and to funnel the trade from the west coast of India into the Gulf of Aden. All right, the reward better be freaking massive for this, because this shit's really not easy to do. Okay, it's gonna allow the construction of the Suez Canal based on, regardless on our admin tech. So if you really rush for Italy, you could build the Suez Canal in the 1500s. Holy shit, that is good. That is actually worth it, as well as a lot of permanent claims. Okay, so now playing Venice and then switching to Italy and then switching to the Roman Empire is a really fun thing to do. The Netherlands also got a really cool little mission tree here. So as Holland, you have basically 10 missions or something, and then you get new ones once you form the Netherlands themselves. I feel like this was one of the nations a lot of people loved playing toll as, and now it gets the mission tree to go alongside with it. The mission tree essentially revolves around trade, playing toll, having a colonial empire. So you have a lot of things you can do here, and you also have the ability to get a union over the English, as well as integrating England or Great Britain. It's going to be 25% cheaper if you do get that union, so that's going to be pretty cool to see. When you hit Tech 20, should you have England or Great Britain as a personal union, still you'll be able to form the United Crowns nation with a unique color, unique ideas as shown below. low. So admin tech 20 to form the United Crowns country. That's a new formable tech. You know what I think about this? I think this is awesome, but I'm also 100% sure that 0.01% people are going to play the game until they get to admin tech 20. So this is a nation that will be featured in my formable nations nobody forms video that I'm going to release at some point. Focus on development. The 1.37 content for the Netherlands adds new tools for the players to engage in developing of urban cities across the Low Countries. So the 7 provinces organization mechanic is going to give dev cost reduction, goods produced modifier, and so on for provinces in the Low Countries, and reduction for provinces outside the Low Countries. So it encourages you to only have provinces within the Low Countries if you want to get those bonuses. There's also a little bit of content for colonizing and for spreading your wings outside of the European continent into India and to the New World. And we also have the eating of Arnold I, the famous Dutch prime minister, I think he was, or something like that, that got eaten up by angry mobs. So current ruler Arnold I will die. Cool. That is unfortunate for him, I guess. Dutch people, am I right? Now let's not forget about Hungary, Austria, Bohemia, Germany, all of which are getting a lot of content as well in 1.37. The Hungarians start with the Apostolic Kingdom government reform that offers access to the Order of the Dragon. By the way, funny story about this. One famous member of the Order of the Dragon was Vlad the Impaler's dad, which led to people in Romania and in Transylvania, the Romanian people in Transylvania, calling him Vlad Dracul. Now, the Order of the Dragon was basically an order to fight against the Muslims and the Ottomans, to be more precise, established by the Hungarians. Both Vlad the Impaler and his dad were a part of the order, and because dragon is similar to Dracul in Romanian, the language Romanian, and Dracul means the devil, and the devil used to bathe in blood in our folk tales, it kind of led to the whole Dracula thing, you know, and vampire thing. Also, the fact that he impaled thousands of people kind of helped with that overarching theme as well, I guess. You can establish the order. It's going to cost 50 military mana, and it's going to give garrison size and garrison army damage plus 25%, as well as 1 manpower in every province it's established in. There's a lot of new events that the Hungarians are getting as part of the free update, so even if you don't get the DLC, you still get these events. Owners of the DLC will gain access to additional government reforms, such as employing Kumans with unique attributes, giving you bonus army tradition every time you stack wipe your enemy armies, combat ability plus 20%, army tradition DK minus 1 from the start, calf to infantry ratio, global unrest, manpower plus 20%, 5 discipline, tax modifier plus 10, production efficiency plus 10, trade power, and no penalty from different religion. This is what the mission tree looks like. It's actually pretty big. Hungarian economic missions were massively expanded and now deal with a wide variety of topics ranging from economic development, religion, and cultural progress, but also ethnic tensions, which started mounting up at the end of the game's timeline. One of my personal privileges that gets added from the mission tree is expand the free royal towns, which gives all provinces in Carpathia with the center of trade and 20 development plus 1 number of manufactories, by the way, that's actually huge, and local development cost reduction and goods produced modifier, 50% local goods produced modifier. So for example, you could have a province that has, realistically, you could get it up to say 30 production development, which is the equivalent of 6 production of a specific good, right? 50% more, it means you get an extra 3 of that good, which is insanely massive. Another part of the mission tree obviously gives a lot of permanent claims around on Wallachia, Moldova. You can also secure an alliance with the Poles if you want to. If you don't want to, you can get permanent claims on the Polish lands, more permanent claims, or a restoration of union on Poland for that matter. You can accept the Poles and accepted culture and get claims on East, West Prussia, Ruthenian region, and so on. Another part of the mission tree focuses on the rivalry with the Ottomans. The Hungarians technically were one of the reasons why the Ottomans couldn't advance into Europe as easily as they would have otherwise, right? The Hungarians did try to hold them off for as long as they could. Unlocks the nobility privilege Vegvar system, 25 defense, 50% maintenance reduction for all border provinces with a fort. Wow, that's cool. All border provinces. That kind of makes it viable to have a fort on every border province then. You get the Black Legion until the end of the game, leader tradition modifier, mercenary leader tradition modifier plus 25%, AE impact minus 15, and winning wars against heathen heathens gets 10 power projection. I like to see that as a thing for all nations, not just for Hungary, because it's so hard sometimes to get power projections in the late game, right? To get this option to get power projection from winning wars against heathens, oh my god, I would love to see that. There's also some missions that focus on developing, and that's pretty much it. You get subjugation on the emperor and the electors as well. There's a lot of stuff here. They've also made some changes to the Wallachian mission tree, so you now have access to the Order of the Dragon. Now let's talk a little bit about the Austrians, which start with the house divided privilege that they kind of need to get rid of. The lands of Austria have been divided between 3 branches of the von Habsburg land. It is time we put an end to this. Once you have 40% land owned by the crown, total development 200, monthly income 20, and 9 admin per month, you get rid of the nobility privilege, a house divided, and you get a house united, which offers tax modifier, autonomy reduction, and manpower speed recovery. Not bad, but it's for only 20 years, this modifier, which kind of, I wish it was permanent, right? You also get an event for the last night. Maximilian von Habsburg becomes your heir, and he is a 555 Chad Lord with the last night trait, which offers cav compatibility and army tradition from battles. This event can only trigger between 1460 and up until 1500, so keep that in mind. The new Austrian mission tree is a lot more concise than the old Austrian mission tree, actually. It's basically similar. You have some branching parts of the Austrian mission tree at the start here, and then the rest is just pretty straightforward, I'd say. Getting secure electorals, which is going to give you the restoration of union on Bohemia, is easier now, actually, because it's only 4 out of the electors to back you up and have 100 relations. In the current version, it's 5, so that's 1 elector less. This is what the branching missions look like. On the one side, we have Duchy of Bavaria, Unify Germany, etc. The other side, we have Imperial Ascendancy, Emperors of Rome, and so on. So one side focuses on the Germanic part, the other side on the Roman part, if we can call it Roman, you know. You also managed to get the restoration of union on Castile, and here's the big part. You can unite with Castile through 1 decision. You also get 10 permanent power projection. Until the end of the Age of Reformation, you get AE minus 10% and Diplo reputation +1. You also have the option of creating Austria-Hungary. It's a new formable, which is kind of a debuff, because essentially this is a result of the Austrians not having the strength to hold on to the entirety of their very multicultural lands, and as such they had to form historically Austria-Hungary. Austria-Hungary has its own ideas, which include morale +10%, Diplo reputation, no religious penalties from different religions, discipline +5%, manpower and accepted culture provinces 30%, trade goods +10%, governing costs -20, artillery compatibility and costs -10%, and so on. Now I do want to mention that in my previous dev diary, when I covered this in the first 1.37 dev diary, I did say that that formable that they hinted at is going to be Austria-Hungary because of the way that they phrased it. A lot of people said, no, it's North German Federation, it's this, it's that. Who was right? Oh my god, it was me again. I'm only saying this because I saw freaking dedicated posts about how I'm wrong and it's not Austria-Hungary. Well, what do you know, boys? What do you know? We also have another formable, Great Moravia, which is a path that the Bohemians can take, and it's suffice to say pretty great because look at the national ideas. Manpower +20%, trade goods +10%, max absolutism effect +15%. Holy mother, bro. Orb extension impact -25, missionaries, monarch power +1, dev cost -5%, discipline +5, and so on. It's a really great actually forming Moravia. And you also have a couple of new missions for Nitra if you want to release Nitra as the Hungarians and play as that. That's an option as well now, and they can also form Great Moravia. This is the new Bohemian mission trees here. Pretty good. Focuses a lot on making Bohemia a strong nation as well as on the aftermath of the Hussite Wars. Reforged Great Moravia mission is the one that unlocks the ability to form Great Moravia as expected, right? You also get Restoration of Union CBs on Hungary, even on Poland, subjugation CBs on the Saxons, on Brandenburg, a new tier 5 government reform that offers morale damage received -10%, and winning battles on Bohemian territory gives 0.1 bonus army tradition. You'll be able to negate unaccepted culture modifier in all Germanic provinces with the estate privilege here, Reformatio Sigismundi, and this is the brand new German Empire mission tree. Once you form the German Empire, we've got a lot more missions, and a lot of the old ones have been revamped as well. You get permanent claims on all of France, a lot of permanent modifiers too, including a 5% power projection that is permanent too. Expand administrative cost -80% until the end of the game from the Treaty of Frankfurt. Diplo-annexing subjects of Germanic culture will give no annex subject penalty. 150 governing capacity flat until the end of the game. You get the Scramble for Africa CB on African natives, allowing us to take the provinces for 90% cost and aggressive expansion, and trade company investment cost minus 10%. So it offers you the option of going colonial once you form Germany to get something new to do, right? You also get claims on Shandong, South, North Hebei. So essentially, if you want to go down the Qingtao historical path, you can do that with the new improved Germany. Until the end of the game, you get 5% production efficiency. Then from the Rhenish industrialization, another 10% production efficiency, so 15 altogether. Diplo reputation, vassalization, acceptance chance, again permanent, possible advisors, all of these. Oh my god. So the thing is, with the new mission tree for Germany and 1.37, it means that doing Prussia as the Teutons and then forming the German Empire once you get admin tech 10 by quickly unifying Germany, as I did in my recent video, by the way, you should check it out. It makes it so you can form Germany in 1520s or so, and then you can use the German mission tree to do a massive world conquest or just expand and have fun around the world. So that's really insane. Now, that's about it for today. I tried to make it a little bit more concise. I know I left a lot of important stuff out, but I hope you guys got the gist of it. Hey, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to also leave a like and subscribe. And until the next time, check out this awesome Prussian unification of German borders. And I want to give a massive thank you to all of my patrons, channel members, and Twitch subscribers. I would not be able to do this without all your support.